Hi everybody, it's me, GhostCritic, and it's time to review some comic books again. Of course, it's Friday. It's what I do here. I'm really sorry that the last couple of videos have been quite long. I'm going to try and make them a little bit shorter for you. I'm sure you've got better things to do than listen to me ramble on. And I'm rambling now, so let's kick off with Green Lantern, issue number 29. No, I didn't read it. We get issue 6 of Hinterkind from Ian Edgington. His kind of post-apocalyptic world where the humans are almost extinct, and we have these Hinterkind emerging from their hiding places. At the end of last issue, the complex where our kind of groups of human and Hinterkind alike had been imprisoned in had pretty much blown up. And we kick off with Prospera and her grandfather trapped under rubble, and unfortunately they both have to split up, ending up with people that they probably would rather not have had to. Back in California, the queen of the Hinterkind is getting the humans working for a change, building this huge kind of monument statue, I guess, and berating her daughter for treating these humans so badly from the last issue. She's put them to work and will feed them and give them, you know, something to do, make them not just sitting there slowly dying. Unfortunately, her words basically bite her on the bum as a group of human assassins attempt to take the life of the Queen, and we have a quickly over skirmish between Hinterkind and humans. Clearly the humans don't come off that well. What transpires out of this is that these people aren't actually human, but are like the Hinterkind. I think they're called, it's spelled S-I-D-H-E, and I think it's pronounced just she. The D is silent, or C. But they have kind of much like our kind of bounty hunter from a couple of issues ago, they kind of mutated themselves to make them look more human so they could fit in. So it's interesting and intriguing to know who has sent those people to try and kill the Queen. Tragedy does strike for the Hinterkind within that skirmish. And what else happens? There's a weird kind of ending, not weird per se, but you know, we're in this kind of comic book era where a story conveniently lasts 6 issues because then you can stick them all in a trade and sell them on that way. Hinterkind issue 6 here kind of ends, but it's not like a satisfying enough conclusion to go on to the next storyline. Obviously, you know, we have our groups that have escaped, but kind of out of the frying pan into the fire. We obviously have the assassination attempt on the Queen, and then they throw in these human-like characters, because I don't know if they're humans. Again, it's the artwork doesn't help this comic book at all, but they've got kind of jagged teeth, but they're looking human. Whether these are also part of these human-like, these the city, however you want to pronounce it, but they're flying over in this kind of big motorised balloon. I can only call it that. They may be the next kind of big threat, but we get very little information about it. As always, I really enjoyed the storyline. Unfortunately, I really dislike the artwork. Issue 3 of the Twilight Zone from J. Michael Straczynski. And if you watched my video on Wednesday, I did say that I was hoping this could potentially have been the last part of this storyline. I wanted these stories to be a lot tighter and maybe even like a single story per comic. Unfortunately, as I progress with this, it's not. There is one more part. The story does continue with Trevor Richmond. He was the guy that we were introduced to in the first issue, who had embezzled lots of money from the company he was working for. He was an absolute shit to his girlfriend. He only cared about himself. But he was about to be found out, so he went to this company called Expedited Services Limited, and he was basically given a new identity, and literally from top to bottom he looks nothing like what he used to look like. But his old persona has been taken over by someone else, and it's this issue that Trevor confronts this guy who has taken over his life and is basically doing a much better job of it. And here we get the backstory of Damon Ross, and that's where the next kind of Twilight Zone-ish twist comes from. And it would have been just great just for the story to have ended then with that twist. It would have been very Twilight Zone-esque. But we've got another issue, the kind of final confrontation over one life between these two characters. But still, the twist with this Damon Ross character and why he has ended up wanting to take someone's life who was at that time just completely abhorrent is in a way kind of heartbreaking at points, and very brave of this young man. Really enjoyed it. The artwork is good. I'll mention the artwork in Dynamite Comics in the next book I will review. But it's solid. It's not displeasing, but it's nothing really great. Another Dynamite issue this week, Green Hornet issue number 10. And Mark Waid further blurs the lines for Green Hornet in good guy, bad guy stakes. Let's throw in some Nazis. We've got some car chases. Kano brings out his kung fu moves. And it's just the dragnet that is getting closer and closer to Green Hornet, and the confusing part of it all is that Britt, the guy who is heading this dragnet, is actually the Green Hornet. It's very confusing where that's going, but eventually this must come to a climax. Another good solid issue from Mark Waid. Along with the artwork, it's Ferrari. They both evoke the time and the era that this is being placed in. Now, the thing with Dynamite, and it's kind of across the board for me, for all the Dynamite comic books I've ever got and are getting now, is that I always find the art style, despite the fact it's done by different people, very similar. I know they're going for this kind of golden agey feel, but I just feel that they don't have to kind of ape that style. It should come across anyway with the storytelling. And that's my only kind of quibble with Dynamite Comics in general. But again, those last two comics, this and A Twilight Zone, really good pulpy type books that I just enjoy getting, and I'm happy to pay that extra little bit. Now we move on to the penultimate issue of Trillium, and I think a lot of people will be happy to hear there is less rotating of comic this month. However, there is even less of a story going on here. listening to fellow YouTubers' reviews and thoughts of this comic book last month, they felt it was a little bit padded out. Personally, I thought last issue was okay-ish. It was a vehicle to get our two characters back to the temple, but certainly this issue felt like there really was more like about 6 pages of story in here that were worthwhile, and again it was just another vehicle to actually get our two characters back together. The whole thing kind of feels like a bad acid trip, and you just wonder, could this really have been taken down to about maybe 6 issues rather than the 8 we've got? So with last issue and this issue combined, there was somewhat of a bit of pad going on. There is only one more issue to go, and that is going to obviously centre around the conclusion of this issue, where we have the spaceship hurtling into this Earth, I presume it is, that has the core that has infected all the ship and killed off all its passengers. A little bit damp at the end here for Trillium. A little bit disappointed in Jeff Lemire. Hopefully he can pull something absolutely spectacular out of the bag for the final episode. Issue 29 of Batman Detective Comics, and this is the conclusion of the Gothtopia storyline that has been going on for the last 3 issues. And it's certainly John Layman's kind of last hurrah with the new creative team coming in with issue 30. However, and I've said this, they really could have made a lot more of this Gothtopia story than we got. It did seem right at the very beginning, it was hyped a lot. It was in that issue 27 spectacular issue, and you just thought, this is going to be something big, it's going to last a while. There's not necessarily going to be repercussions, but there's going to be some drama going on in here. But it just seems to have been so fleeting, and the way it's all resolved here, it's all very kind of convenient and all wrapped up nicely with a little bow on the top. What you have is, we saw at the end of last issue that Batman was just about to escape out of the facility, and he's confronted with Scarecrow and his friends, Catwoman, Batwoman, I think the Talon was in there, and they've been given the fear toxin and are under Scarecrow's control. So we're ready for a big fight. Scarecrow overpowers him and gives him a blast of this new fear toxin, which will help him control Batman. Of course, Batman's already taken an antidote, so he's bluffing all the way through. He goes on a little bit of a scare fest with all the rest of the villains that Scarecrow have got together. But Batman cleverly kind of leads the pack and chooses his victims very carefully. Of course, the Scarecrow's ploy is foiled, as it was always going to be, and we have the Scarecrow banged up in Arkham Asylum once again. And it all just seems a little bit pat, a little bit trite, not the big hurrah we should have got for... I mean, John Layman did wonders for Detective, given Tony Daniel's effort right at the very beginning, which was poor to say the least. They're kind of highlight, if you want to say that, came right at the end with Catwoman meeting up with Batman. None of the rest of them have really remembered what happened in this whole Gothtober thing, but Catwoman has these kind of fragments of memories of what happened, and one of the overriding memories is that the two of them obviously worked together and they worked well, and there you do feel some sympathy for Catwoman here. She wants that connection with Batman, but Batman's being the moody Dark Knight, and he's off. He has no time for Catwoman, and you do kind of feel a little bit sorry at the end for Catwoman. Be interesting to see where our new creative team will take what has been a kind of up and down title since its new inception in this 52 universe. And finally, it's not really my kind of pick of the week, but it was certainly the best, I guess, what I read of the books. It is Charles Soule's Swamp Thing, issue 29, the start of a new story arc. And really, you should never, ever, ever trust a fanatical cult that's devoted to you. Never. Rookie mistake. Yes, we're introduced to this kind of cult called the Serene. This is another deep dark secret that the Parliament of Trees have kept away from the Swamp Thing and previous avatars because of what the Serene can do for an avatar of the Green. I was a bit sketchy on this because we had Jonah, one of the guys that Swamp Thing has brought with him out of the Green and saved. He kind of gives tiny little bits of information about the Serene, but he never kind of fully explains what they are, what they can do, and it's basically Swamp Thing has to ask the Serene directly. Jonah is very, pleased. He knows all about the Serene and what they can do, and he says, make the most of them. So we have these fawning disciples saying they'll do anything for him. Obviously, as a kind of godlike deity, he wants to give them something to make all their efforts seem worthwhile, and they have this fruit that's so rare, but obviously Swamp Thing can create from out of his body, and it sets them off on a kind of loved out acid trip, and we get some interesting artwork from Jesus Sayus in that part. But of course, things aren't all what they seem on the surface. We find out the Serene can, how can I put this? They can be used for want of a better word, I guess, the soul of Swamp Thing to go into one of the body of the Serene, and then the avatar can live as a normal human being. And that kind of presents the question, the reason why, I guess, the Parliament of Trees didn't want the avatars to know about this, because, once you go back to being human, would you really want to go back and be the avatar of the Green? Now you are back in a new body, could be a much better body than you had before. But things go a little bit wrong for Swamp Thing. Shouldn't have been so trusting. Get this book to find out what happened. The kind of side story that goes along here is with Wolf and Lady Weeds, who have been kind of kept in the house but have their own needs, usually to do with money and power, and they head off while Swamp Thing is distracted into New Orleans, as Wolf has apparently got some Some things on the kind of back burner that he'd left before he was the Avatar. So there's obviously some money going around, maybe some property to make his new life on Earth now rather than the green a little bit easier for himself. So there's a little bit of humour in there. It's a little bit dark. Obviously these guys no longer have the power of the green, though Lady Weeds certainly does seem to have a certain intimidating power over people still. Again, another much solid book from Charles Soule. Swamp Thing has been a firm favourite and very much near the top of my pile to read. So go out. This perfectly good jumping on point for anyone who hasn't read Swamp Thing. It's the start of a new arc. 3 parts. It's Charles Soule. He's been doing some great work on loads of titles from what I hear, but Swamp Thing here has been my favourite. That's it for this week. Thank you all for watching as usual. What else? Yes, of course, if you're new here and you don't want to miss out any more videos, please hit the subscribe button. Always appreciative of all my new subscribers, and give it a big thumbs up if you liked it as well. And there's a comment box down below. How about telling me what you read this week? If you read any of the titles I did you agree with what I thought about them? Anyone else reading The Green Hornet? Let me know. I know of one more person that is at the moment. Let yourself be known. Come forward. Tell me in the comments section below. That's me finished for the week. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.